So I had the idea to make a tier list, right? But that's the thing. Decaying Winter has already had a ton of tier lists, so I figured, okay, well let's be a little bit different. All of them seem to be explaining like how good and useful a perk is for their team and or for the individual player. And I figured because I'm amazing at Decaying Winter, I would make a tier list based off difficulty. And again, this is all my opinion. Opinions are not fact. Keep that in mind. I like to play the game in a very different way from many of you, I'm guessing. Probably. I'm hoping at least. That's what games are for, to be played in different ways. And I figured a difficulty tier list would be interesting because I also just do not do well with some perks and do half decent with other perks. Because that's just how it's going to go. Anyways, let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to be using the good old tier maker, which you probably see a lot of other people using. And, yeah. So, we're going to start with the survivalist, who is, of course, your all-around perk. They have a backpack. They come full, as in, like, full food in their belly. That's kind of it. So, I mean, they don't actually have any abilities, so let me explain that. I'm going to be ranking the difficulties based on using their abilities. So, Damned and Survivalist are hard to play, but they don't actually have any abilities that come with them. So technically, based off how I'm using that terminology, I'm going to be putting them at pretty easy because they're pretty easy to use because they don't have any abilities to use. Now, if this was a difficulty based on how hard it is to play the class overall, then we would probably put them higher or lower on the list because they don't really come with anything that benefits the team. Now, Lazarus's ability requires precision / timing, but that also requires the player to use their brain because you can use your ability, your stun ability, to either heal enemies, to stun enemies, or to remove negative effects on yourself and teammates for a little bit. Now, we're going to do precision / timing for now because timing is important, but it's not really an ability you have to aim. Because, as we all know, it is an AoE effect type of an ability. So, next up we have, not Lazarus, what's your name? The Zealot. Yes, Zealot. Oh, I think that's the Zealot. Who I'm going to say is going to be easy enough because you really just have to place down your turret. Really simple. You can also pull out your shield to take damage and or like reduce enemy fire coming into your teammates. It does last a little bit. It does have a durability amount, so you just pull it out. You hold F instead of pressing F. So easy enough, Zealot. So the Prophet, we're gonna put at easy enough because you run around, you scan things. Sometimes those things are enemies. You see the rarities, which if you've played any other game that uses like gacha or like tier levels, so like make things more rare or less rare, uncommon, mythic, legendary. That's all pretty self-explanatory based on the colors that the Prophet gives you. So yeah, easy enough. Now we have Sovereign, who I'm going to say, for now we're going to say, okay, now we're using our brain. Because you have to be able to time it to kill the enemies. Sorry, no, you have to do enough damage so that you are guaranteed. We might change that later, but for now we're going to keep them there. Next up we have the Tick Spider. That's this one, right? No, this is the high, no, this is Mind Flayer. Yes, the Mind Flayer. I'm going to say right there as well, because they kind of have the same playstyle as Sovereign. Yes, go ahead and say in the comments how they're different. I know they're different. But they both require a hit of some sort on the enemy for their ability to actually be useful. For example, the Mind Flayer can't flay an enemy's mind unless some damage has been dealt to them. So if you try to use it on an enemy that's full health, it just won't mind flay them and you'll be running around being chased by monsters. Or not monsters, but scavs and monsters. So yeah. You can also throw it out a little bit, so that does let you use your brain a little bit if you want. Next up we have the Apostle, which honestly requires, a lot of these perks require getting a hit of some sort on the enemy, which makes sense, of course. Yes, it makes sense. But some of them require last hits, which can be a little annoying, especially for the Apostle, because if you're trying to regain HP or get to charge up your abilities so you can summon another Dave, then you'll need to get that last hit. and kill. I think. Might be wrong there. It's been a while since I played Apostle. Now we have the Vagabond, who I'm gonna say is easy enough because you do just run around killing things using your sword, slashing, and you can hold F to regain HP. So I guess they're not easy enough. You do have to actually strafe around, and you can't just press one button to do all the work. You do have to decide when to sacrifice your dog tags to regain HP or to stay strong-ish. I think the damage is maxed out at 75. Okay, so next up we have the Blitzer. Sorry, not the Blitzer, the Arbiter, who everybody knows does literally require timing because you need to get off your long range shot. You don't always need to, but you can and probably should when you can. Yeah, but that's it. Basically, the Arbiter's long shot requires precision and timing because it's really useful for clearing out enemies and getting kills and clearing out places when you're looting. Anyways, next up is the Executioner. I think we'll put them here because you do need to time your melee hits and all that, but when you get to that point where you can just one-shot enemies, then that's fine, I guess. Yeah, because the Executioner's best ability, or the only reason why people like to use the Executioner is because you can stack up the kills you get to do even more damage with melee, but the only problem is later on, melee isn't as viable because all the enemies just have guns that break your goggles. So I think because you do have to manage your goggles health, we are using our brain, but because you can one-shot enemies after a certain point, then you can, yeah, you can just kind of turn off your brain. Next up is the Immolator, which I will actually put up here because yes, you can basically do the same thing as the Executioner in some ways. You do have to manage that flame bar because if it goes too high, then you're going to explode. If you explode, you can also get your teammates killed. So you need to know when to pull out that flame and when to not use it. Berserker I'll put in the same spot because the ability has to be used. Actually, no, I'm going to put the Berserker down one because yes, the skills you need to make the Berserker viable makes it really difficult, but again, I almost forgot my own definition. It's the ability itself. So you just have to pop that stem and run around. You do have to know when to use it. So it does require timing, but not in the same way that, like, it doesn't require as much timing and micromanagement as you would need with like the Lazarus, the Immolator, and the Arbiter. Next up is the Drifter, who yes, you can teleport around and you can just one-shot people, which is why we're going to put them at, okay, now we're using our brain, because you do have to learn how to use the teleport and how to use it effectively, but once you get there, then, well, it's a pretty quick cooldown too, so yeah, you get used to it. You have to learn it a little bit, small learning curve, but once you get there, yeah, easy. Next up is the Artillerist, who is honestly easy enough because you just pull out a gun and shoot people with the head, shoot people in the head. So you'd have to aim, but it's not, I guess you do have to use your brain because you have to actually aim and you can't just pop it down really, really easily. Yeah. Next up is the Risk Runner, which, same thing, you just need to collect ammo. You pull out that big gun. I mean, you do need to know when to use it, but you can pick up so much ammo that you kind of just like click your mouse or press F, hold your mouse, and just mow down enemies. So yes, ammo management is a thing, which is why it's in the okay, now we're using our brain tier. Next up is the Hive Mind, who, honestly, if there was a sub level, I would just call it Hive Mind, and it can be its own tier. But it is easy enough. You just pop down whatever you need. There are 3 versions: Direct, Diverse, Divide, and Disperse. All of them are useful. All of them are pretty easy to use. You just have to switch and pressing F, and it's really, really easy. Next up is the Blitzer, who I'm going to put in the okay, now we're using our brain tier because yes, you do need to manage your when to use them. Actually, I'm gonna say this then. I'm gonna say that they require precision and timing because you need to make sure you're not blowing up your teammates, and you need to make sure that you're not blowing up yourself. And you want to only hit your enemies. You do also need to know where your bombs are as a Blitzer, because if you don't know where your bombs are and you detonate them, you could get teammates killed. You get the morale debuffs that could affect your whole team. Could be the end of a run. Next up is the Tick Spider. Honestly, you just hold F or you press F, you just throw down a little mine that can chase enemies or blow up when they get near you. So it's pretty simple. Crosslink, you do have to use your brain a little bit. It's a little bit kind of like the other trapper perks where you just throw your stuff out, but you do have to put them out in ways that are optimized. So I guess that would go up here, huh? Yeah, because you do need to know when to use them because they last a certain amount of time, I'm pretty sure, not durability wise. So they last for like X amount of seconds or minutes. I don't know exactly, but I do know that they are useful. You can't always take them back whenever you want, so that's why it requires timing, because you can take them back early and reset up in case the wave is getting hectic and all that. So some time management in there. And now let's go over it again, because I think we need to rearrange some of these. We'll do Mind Flayer up here, Apostle as well, and maybe the Drifter. Yeah, because these ones you just have to activate a button and you basically get your full ability off, besides the Executioner. Because Sovereign, you throw your knife, you get the instant conversion chance. Vagabond, you pull out your sword, easy. Berserker, you just inject yourself with that stim. You're good to go for a fight. Just get things killed. Artillerist, you pull out that pistol and or revolver actually. And with the Risk Runner, you pull out that minigun. Next up is just the Executioner, who again just pull on your goggles, gets some melee kills. You can go on a really long killing streak. So I'm actually gonna say that the Immolator actually goes up higher, because not only can you make your bullets on fire, you can also, again, you do better at melee, you can do good with guns, but you just can't let yourself get blown up. I feel like Blitz Immolator is the only one where we have to micromanage so many things. Let's go over it one more time. Survivalist and Damned at the bottom because they literally don't have abilities. Zealot, you just place down a turret or pull out a shield. Easy enough, you just press a button. Prophet, same thing. Hive Mind, same thing. Tick Spider, same thing. And again, we already explained these ones. Lazarus, you need to know when to stun enemies or to heal or to negate negative effects such as cripples and whatnot. Blitzer, you'd have to know the timing for your long shot, and that's it. You don't really want to blow yourself up, so that's why it's a step up into requires precision slash timing. And actually, let's bring Blitzer up top, because needing to micromanage where your bombs are can be chaotic sometimes, especially if the server is laggy. If the server is laggy, then you might get screwed over and screw over your teammates a lot. Crosslink is a hard one, because you do have to know when your traps are going to disappear. You do need to know the optimized time places for them, because there's a certain distance where they do connect and don't connect. So I'm going to bring Crosslink up, actually, mainly because it's got a few more factors than these ones down here. Let's see. Mind Flayer, you have to make sure the enemy has taken damage. Okay, that's pretty simple. Apostle, you have to mark your enemy and they just have to die. I forgot though if you have to kill the enemy yourself or not. Yeah, so enemies marked by the Apostle through their secondary ability, which is just marking them, making them marked for death, if we're gonna use TF2 terms, will heal the Apostle upon being killed by Shadow Hunters, aka Daves, or the Orgia's Hand, which is your melee weapon as the Apostle, which you can't switch out. So yeah, we'll keep the Apostle here. Drifter, again, I guess you really just teleport and pull out the sword. You can dash with the thing too, but that's just a right click and a left click difference. So I think this is how we're going to leave it off, because Immolator, again, you have to manage your flame. Blitzer, you have to micromanage. Crosslink, you have to micromanage. These three you have to micromanage, I feel like, the most. But that's, again, all of this is just my opinion. Everyone's lists would be different. Their tiers would be different. But yes, this is my perspective on the difficulties of the perks, ranking from big brain time, requiring precision slash timing. Okay, now we're using our brain, and it's easy enough, and then pretty easy. I think that's all the perks. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. This is a bit more of an informal video. So have a great rest of your day, and or night, and or morning, and or evening. Bye bye.
Subscribe. You don't have to, but you should.
Yeah.
Ah!